Hi and welcome back to my channel. So I'm super excited to be doing today's video because this is our Speak Life coaching group video and it's entitled, What Do You Fear? What do you fear? So even as I say that, it brings up images of things because we all fear something, you know, and I know the Bible says that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but the reality is we all fear something. And I can be honest with you and tell you about some things that I truly fear. One of which are spiders. I am truly fearful of spiders. I do not like them anywhere. I have a fear of the dark. I won't lie about that. Unless I'm going to bed. Now, when I'm going to bed, lights need to be out. There's no TV, no nothing. I need complete darkness for me to fall asleep in. What else? I'm afraid of the basement. I do not go in the basement of my house if no one's home. I just don't. I'm not going to, and I don't care what you say. Even though I know nobody's down there, it's just that whole thing of dark basements. So let's see. Oh, I have a fear of snakes. And that is a true fear, because when I was a little kid, my brother and I, we were playing out in the backyard, and he kept pushing me kind of underneath this pine tree that we had hanging in the backyard. And, you know, the branches were hanging down, and she was shoving me, and I'm pushing back, and I happened to look around. I thought, oh my God, there's a snake hanging down off the branch. And I kept telling my brother to stop because there was a snake. He thought I was just joking so I could get the upper hand, because I think I was a little stronger than him back then. But anyway, so he kept pushing me, and finally I was like, no, Mike, seriously, stop. Look, there is a snake, and there was a huge black snake hanging down off this branch. And I remember I went running in the house screaming. I was crying. I was so upset. And of course my dad came out and got the snake. And ever since then, I have truly had a fear of snakes. But let me fast forward and give you one even better. Early on in my federal government career, I worked with the Forest Service. And I had an opportunity to go out into I said the woods, but I was corrected. It is not the woods. It is called the wilderness. So we went out into the wilderness, and I had a very interesting encounter. You know, I'm worried because, in my opinion, we're out in the woods. Let's just say that. And so I'm thinking snakes, right? And so I'm looking left, I'm looking right, I'm looking in front, I'm looking behind me, because I don't want nothing creeping up on me. And our tour guide, his name was Forrest. I can't remember his last name, saved my life, but I know his first name was Forrest. And so we're walking along, and he said something, and I tripped over this tree branch. And I fell, and my glasses fell off. So when I reached to put my glasses back on, guess what I see? Oh, I see a snake. And I don't know what kind of snake it was, but I remember it had some yellow, some brown, and yellow, brown, maybe some black in it. But when I screamed and I went running this way, the snake went off that way. And I thought to myself, Lord, if you let me get back in this Suburban and get to my hotel, I will never bring my tail out into the woods ever again, period, point blank. So anyway, we continue on, and we got to see the work that they do there and all that great stuff. So as we're coming back, crossing a stream, Forrest says, I don't want to alarm you, but I need you just to stay put. And I'm thinking, huh? He said, just stay put, don't move it. So I'm staying still, I'm not moving at all. I was even afraid to blink. So after we all crossed this little stream and got back in the truck, and I asked him what was the problem, he said there was a water moccasin. I thought, Jesus Christ. Made it back safely, get to my hotel, and guess what I see, y'all? A little snake wiggling its way underneath the door to the hotel room. I was done. Absolutely done. Went to the front desk, told the person at the desk what had happened. He grabs a broom and a dustpan. I said, well, wait a minute, where you going with that? He said, we're going to go get the snake. No, we ain't doing nothing. What you're going to do is give me a key to a room up on the second floor. I'm not staying in that room because it was on the bottom level. And he said, well, we can just get the snake. I said, oh, the devil is a lie. I said, because if there's one snake in there, it's probably another one, considering how easy it went underneath that door. I need a key to a room up on the second level. So my co-worker was traveling with me. She was like, yeah, I'm going to need one too. So we went in, checked that room out. It was fine. I took every towel except the one I was going to use, and I piled it up, you know, against the door so to make sure nothing got in. So when I tell y'all my fear of snakes is real, it is real. And let me see. Oh, I have a fear of thunder. I can deal with lightning. even though I know that lightning can strike and kill you, but I have a serious fear of thunder. I just absolutely hate it. And last but not least, I have a fear of falling, because there's nothing worse than you being out in your cute shoes in public and you fall. So I always have a fear of that happening, because I've seen it happen to other people. So when I say, what do you fear? We all fear something. So don't sit here and say, oh, I'm not afraid of anything, because you're telling a tale. We all have a fear of something. So we know that fear is described as false evidence appearing real. That is the definition of fear, right? And so let's really jump into this whole fear thing. So, think about what your fears are. Think about whether or not they're real, or if they're just really all in your mind. Because sometimes it's a little bit of both, right? So, and then I want you to ask yourself, what is it that's keeping you from being the best that you can possibly be? Because again, if you don't look at your fears and you don't address them and get better with those fears, it can keep you from being the best that you ought to be, the best that you are. So you need to check those fears, right? So we are all afraid of something. Most people aren't living to their full potential because of fear, and it's sad to think that you could be doing something great, but fear has such a hold on you and it won't let you go. And when I tell y'all that this is real, this thing is real. Fear grips us to a point that we are not being all that we are called to be. So I want you to start thinking about the fears that you're holding on to and ask yourself, why are you holding on to them? Things are going to go wrong from time to time, and that's okay, because it's called life. And guess what? Life happens to each and every one of us. It happens to me just like it's going to happen to you, your next door neighbor, your family members. Life just happens. Sometimes you have to be your own motivator to help you move past your fear, because if not, you start to leave holes in your self-esteem. And this is deep. I actually heard this from Les Brown, which you all know I love me some Les Brown. And he was talking about this in a video that I was listening to a couple of days ago. And then he says you'll start to fill that hole with negative self-talk, worry, depression, negative people, or worse, things like self-destructive behavior, meaning drugs and alcohol. So he says you become your own worst enemy. And truthfully, a lot of us really are our own worst enemy. Les Brown also says there is a difference between having fear and fear having you. Now that's deep right there. Let me say that again. There is a difference between having fear and the fear having you. First, you must acknowledge the fear. Okay, you've got to acknowledge what it is that you fear. And then you need to embrace it. And he says, what you resist, you persist. And then you've got to move on. So we're going to acknowledge the fear, we're going to embrace it, and then we are going to move on from that fear. And then, just some other thoughts. Some fears are natural things that most of us go through. And in the beginning of this video, I shared with you natural things that most of us fear, like spiders, the dark, and things like that. Those are just natural things, right? So now I want to spend a few minutes talking about different kinds of fear. So first on my list, I have the fear of success. Now you might be thinking, who has a fear of success? But you'd be surprised. There are a lot of people in the world that fear success, because in their minds they're thinking, if I take on this project and I am successful with this project, guess what? My manager is now going to expect me to do other projects. And that other project has got to be just as good, if not better, than the first project that I did. So that's a real fear for some people, and it keeps them from stepping out, doing the things that they really want to do, because again, like I said, they're afraid that if I do such a great job this time, guess what, people are going to expect me to do an even greater job the second time. It's sort of like going to a movie, right? And you see a movie and it's funny or it's scary or it's whatever, but you love it. And then a part 2 comes out. And because you saw the first movie and you remember how funny it was or how frightening it was, you're thinking, okay, I can't wait to go see part 2, because I know part 2 is going to be just as good, if not better, than part 1. And sometimes we go, and unfortunately part 2 was nowhere near as good as part 1. Or sometimes the second part is better than the first part. So people have a real fear of doing things because they fear the success that's going to come with doing that thing, especially if it comes out to be something truly wonderful. Next, we're going to talk about the fear of failure. If I had $1 for every person that I've ever met in my life who had amazing gifts and talents and ideas, but they didn't act on them because they were so afraid to fail, let's just say I'd have a lot of money. And that fear of failure is very, very real. Can I just tell you that? It is very real. And I experienced that somewhat when after I'd taken the Circle of Champions class, which by the way I'm a member of now. And I remember we talked about doing our first workshop or our first seminar. And I thought, oh yeah, you know what? I can do this because I have stuff to share with people that people can benefit from. And then I started thinking about, oh wow, Michelle, what if it doesn't work out? What if nobody shows up? What if you only get 2 people to show up? What if they don't like it? What if they don't get anything from it? And so that negative self-talk starts to come in, and I started to slowly, just like I was so excited about it, I slowly started to kind of back up and go, you know what? I don't know if I should do this. But then just as quick as I thought that positive mindset set in and said, no, Michelle, you can do this. You will be successful at it. I don't care if 20 people come and only 1 person gets something out of it, or if only 5 people show up. You are going to do this, and it's going to be a success. So we got to stop with the negative self-talk. But you see how easily I could have let the fear of failure keep me from doing the workshop that I'm going to do. It happens so easy. So what I want to say to you is, and encourage you, is that if you have something that you want to do, and step out there and do it. Stop worrying about, all the things. I mean, I'm not saying don't think about it, because you do have to think about all the things that could go wrong so that you can be better prepared. But stop dwelling on it. Stop letting that fear of failing keeping you from stepping out there, because guess what? Even if you failed at what you're doing, is it the end of the world? The world as you know it, is it going to end? I don't think it's going to. I really don't. And all you can do is look at what you did, make a list of all the things that went right, make a list of all the things that went wrong, and then focus on fixing the things that didn't go so right. Get out there and try it again. Stop letting fear keep you from moving forward and doing the things that you truly want to do. Next, we have the fear of leaving the known for the unknown. We see this a lot when people stay in relationships where the expiration date has passed. You know what I'm saying? So there's some people that are truly afraid of leaving a relationship because they say, well, the devil that I know is better than the one that I don't know. So in other words, they're afraid of leaving Bob or Ricky because they know Bob or Ricky, to branch out and maybe meet a Mike or Clarence. You see what I'm saying? Because of that unknown, they just don't know. Well, they're like, am I going to jump out of the frying pan into the fire? So they stay in situations that are not good for them And or sometimes that situation is good for you, but you need to step it up and move to another level. And so it's just easier to stay where you are than it is to jump out there and do something new. So I want to encourage you today, stop thinking about, oh my goodness, I've got to step out of this that I know and move into that I don't know, and it may not go well. So what? It may not, but guess what? Again, you make that list. You make that list of what went right and what didn't go right, and then you focus on the things that didn't go right. You gotta leave the known for the unknown sometimes, okay? Next on my list, I have the fear of starting over. And let's face it, a lot of people struggle with starting over. And this is why, and I actually know a couple of people who have ended relationships. And, you know, a lot of time has passed now, but they have a fear of starting over with someone else because they keep thinking about all that didn't go right in this relationship. So they're afraid to start all over in another relationship. Can I just tell you, you got to get rid of that kind of thinking. Sometimes you have to start over. I had a coworker once who he and his wife had a restaurant. And it was doing great, and then, you know, life happens and the economy kind of got bad, so they had to close the restaurant down. And I remember saying, well, would you ever open up another one? And he said, probably not. And I think it's because, and don't get me wrong, I know it's a lot of work doing that kind of business, but here's the thing, regardless of what the business is, sometimes you do have to start all over. Now, sometimes, you know, if that thing doesn't work out, it's probably because it wasn't meant to work out. But on most things, you know, you have to not be afraid to start all over again. If it didn't work out, you know what? Sit down, come up with a plan to figure out how to do it, but this time do it better. Learn from your mistakes. Okay, but we have to get past that fear of starting over, because if not, you will never go anywhere in life. Starting over can be a good thing. Last but certainly not least, the fear of what other people are going to say and think. This fear is very real for some people. But can I just tell you this? Let me tell you something. I don't care what people say or think. Well, that's not completely true. I do kind of care, but I don't care. I don't care enough to not do the things that I want to do because of what somebody may say or think. Honey, let me tell you something. What you say or think is very irrelevant, because I'm going to do Michelle and you're going to do you, regardless of what other people say or think. Don't let that keep you from doing the things that you want to do. It's not about them, but it's about you. Got it? Move away from that. So those are just my tips and just my insight that I wanted to share with you, because I think this whole thing of fear is so very real. And I talk to a lot of people about a lot of things. You know, sometimes people call, because of the work that I do, people call in and they file complaints, and you know, they have a real fear, especially those that have been victims of identity theft. And I can understand that, but I just want, and I try to encourage people all the time, stop living in fear. Stop letting fear control you so much that you're just afraid to get out of your shell and explore life and to start all over again and step from the known to the unknown. You got to do that, because if not, you're just going to be miserable. Okay, so I hope this video helped you as you deal with your fears. If you have any comments, questions, feedback, please feel free to comment below, and I'll make sure I leave my contact information in the description box, because you can always reach out to me and we can talk about it. You know, we can set you up with some one-on-one sessions, group sessions if you like, to really talk about this thing called fear, or just whatever else it is that you need some help with in your life. So until our next video, remember to walk away from fear. No, I'm sorry. Let me leave you with this. I want you to remember to acknowledge your fear, embrace it, and then move on from it. So in our next video, until our next video, take care.